from our top thing, our play action passes, and then go down to our 5-out protection. It's pretty close in terms of in terms of how we use the pass game. So that kind of gives you an illustration. Obviously, we're going to talk about quick game today. It's our third most used pass game, concept. And the next slide that I'm going to get to here, guys, is our quick game breakdown as we get more and more into the meat of the conversation. So over those 3 seasons, we've called quick game 262 times. This is about what it would average to, about 87 times per season or 7 times per game. So a pretty high volume, I think, as people break us down. And as we get into the topic, I'll kind of get into the more details of it. We've attempted 257 throws, of the ones called. Our completion percentage has been right around 55. It's actually a little over 65%, over 1,600 yards. This next bullet, guys, I do think is an important bullet, and one that is one of the reasons that I believe quick game is it's definitely a big part of our offense. And, I would encourage, people to look at it. So every time we call a quick game pass, we're getting 6.5 yards per attempt, and we're getting over 10 yards per completion. And, you look at a lot of things, you talk to a lot of people, you work with a lot of people, and it's like, well, quick game, I don't know, we're just going to throw these short things. I don't know if that's good. Well, if you could tell me that every time I call a play and complete a pass, it's going to get me a first down, that's something I kind of like. And then when you tell me every time I call this pass, I'm over 6.5 yards per attempt, that's something I like. The next bullet, we've also had the quarterback has had to run the ball twice when we've called quick game, and we've given up 3 sacks. And I'm going to spend some time on this number. Taking negative plays and eliminating sacks has been a big part of our philosophy and who we are. And I know everybody says that, stay ahead of the sticks, stay on schedule, get to third and makeable, convert third downs, make first downs. Well, as I watch people and I study games over the years, I know everybody says that, but then when I watch what they do sometimes, I'm like, how important is it to you? So in our kind of philosophy, it's always been staying out of negative plays and it's in everything we do. It's how we protect, how we run the ball, it's play action, and obviously quick game plays into that. So we've only given up a sack 1 out of every 87 throws. So you go back to that, you're throwing it about 87 times per season. So you might get sacked once a year. The efficiency of the play has been about 56%, which I think is really high. And then our touchdown to interception ratio. So when you just look at the numbers of the quick game, it's something that from a metric standpoint, as these numbers have gotten more and more involved in play calling and how we run offenses, our quick game is probably something that the numbers part of it says, we're doing good things with it. The way we use quick game or where we use it, I'm going to say this statement. Everybody talks about situational football. I believe, and you hear some of the experts, the TV pundits that I laugh at, oh, they're great at situational football. What really is situational football? So I've studied this a lot. I study the numbers a lot. But this is where we're going to use our quick game passes. So when I say base down here, I'm really referring to first and second down. That's really at the crux of it. So a big majority of the time, that is where we're calling our quick game. So of all the quick games we call, it's about 5.5 per game, if you will, but it's about 78% of our quick game calls are going to come on first and second down. Third and 1, I look at this down and distance a lot of times, and I think we're all seeing changes over the last, 3 to 5 to 7 years of what people look at as short yardage. I don't, and I've always felt this way. I don't think this is something I felt, I could probably go back to the 90s and these numbers would be about the same. But I think 3rd and 1 sometimes, depending on your confidence level in your quarterbacks and your receivers and tight ends and whatnot, it's a pretty good pass down, to be honest with you. And 3rd and 1, if you're converting 75% of these throws on 3rd and 1, I kind of like it. 3rd and 2 to 3. This is the way I break down 3rd downs. And then I have a 3rd and extra long. But 3rd and 2 to 3, 10 of 13, and again, guys, I think sometimes to line up, you can line up in big personnel and throw a lot of these concepts. You can line up, obviously, in a thinner personnel grouping, 11. And, it's kind of like the opposite, right? Line up in thinner sets to maybe run the ball. 3rd and 4 to 6, that 15 of 27, I think that's a pretty good conversion rate. And a lot of that is quick game. And then, this is probably these 9 times we've thrown it over the last 3 seasons, or the 3 seasons that I'm using these numbers from. They're probably waste downs, down in distances where you might be going for it on 4th down, or maybe you're getting into a kick range, where you're trying to get a more reasonable kick for your field goal kicker. What are the advantages of the quick game? I said it earlier, and I'll continue to say it. It protects the quarterback. I think a big part of the way I've coached quarterbacks, and going back a ways, I was with the offensive line as well. There's nothing that irritates me more than a quarterback that's going to pat the ball, hold on to the ball. It's just something that's a pet peeve of mine. I want the ball to get out of the quarterback's hand to protect him. As much as anything, though, not only are you protecting him, you're protecting the offensive lineman. I think it's kind of a compliment sometimes when we play a game and you come in and you watch the game afterwards on tape and you see rushers almost stopping the rush. Now, maybe they're going to teach their guys to get their hands up and all that kind of stuff. If we're getting the ball out of our hands in that kind of timing and we're forcing defenses to kind of react that way, I think we're doing a good thing. We said it earlier. There are high percentage throws, and then there are throws that are going to keep you on track. So I think those are the positives or the advantages of the quick game. All right, what is needed for success? I think in everything you do conceptually, and whether it's in the run game, the pass game, I think you need, what are the ingredients that it's going to take? And I think, guys, these things are pretty, self-explanatory, but I am going to, accentuate some of the things I think here. The first thing, guys, decisive and accurate. Here's what I know about, quarterback play and talking with a lot of guys over the years and talking about fundamentals. I did a virtual clinic a couple weeks ago with a great quarterback coach, really, really impressed by him. But here's what I do believe. I think when your quarterback is decisive, his ability to be accurate goes up exponentially. And I'm gonna refer to a story. So I got a job at a program. I'm not going to say which. And we had a quarterback coming back that was going into his senior season. He had a kind of probably an under, not a great junior year, kind of got benched at some point in time. And I watched a cut up of his good plays from that previous year and his not good plays. And this kid was a talented kid. He ended up being a draft pick and is still on a roster in the NFL. And if you said to me, when I watched his bad tape cut up, so his interceptions or bad decisions, the low percentage stuff, and I looked at his footwork and I looked at his just mannerism in the pocket, it came down to, how do I get this guy to play decisive? Because I was convinced when I watched the good cut up that this kid was a very talented kid. So in this quick game, I'm going to, as I give you the X's and O's of it, I'm going to talk to you a lot about, this is why these are decisive, it's a decisive process. I think, guys, we get hung up so often in how many plays can I draw up? How many patterns can I draw up? How many different route combinations can I draw up? And if your quarterback doesn't have a system in which he's how he looks. We've all sat in those staff rooms, and trust me, I have done the same thing. And, maybe it's a head coach and they'll say, well, why doesn't he look over there? That guy's wide open. Well, if you want your quarterback to play in an indecisive manner, watch the film on Sunday, and maybe he made a good decision. But yes, there was a corner route open. There was a post route open. But the way you taught him didn't necessarily take him to that route. Well, if you want to start putting that indecision in his head, those are things I think you got to stay away from. A lot of people in West Coast offense, they use that term alert. I've asked so many people, what does that mean? What does alert mean? Well, take it if you see it. And I'm like, well, if you want his eyes over here, you can't tell him to look for something over there. So I know I'm going on about that, but I think any part, this doesn't have to be quick game, but I think any pass game system that we're using, you want to have a way to make your quarterback be decisive. That, in essence, is going to help his accuracy. Repetition, we kind of talked about earlier with the numbers. This is something that we are, going to do a good amount of, so we are going to spend a lot of time on it. But you also need variety. And how do you get variety in the quick game? The way I look at it is you're going to have some variety in our routes and patterns. And here's one thing I'm going to say. I think a lot of people, you say quick game to people and they think, we're going to throw hitches, we're going to throw slants, we're going to throw, rollovers or quick out type of routes. I think there needs to be variety in it, but at the same time, we need to be decisive and accurate as well. So we do have, a handful of routes and patterns that we're going to use to give this some variety. It's something that you can use with a lot of different personnel groupings, from, multiple tight end, multiple running back personnels, all the way up to, 10 personnels. And then also be creative with formation. So that's how we're going to create that variety. So when you do run it, 80 plus times per year, it's not necessarily something that the defense can hone in on. The way we protect, and I think it's, again, an advantage to the quick game. So we have two different protections in our quick game, a 6-man protection. And you could see the first bullet in both of these, same as drop back. I think that's critical. We from a scheme assignment standpoint, our quick game protection doesn't it doesn't vary any from our drop back protection in terms of how we do it, our system of how we do it. So I do think that that's an important component of maybe the success that we've had with our quick game over the years. The next bullet is going to be the same for both 6-man and 5-man protection, but in 5-man protection, there'll be this added note that we not need to make. So because the ball's coming out of our hand in 6-man protection especially, we probably don't need to have any awareness of HOTS or sight adjust type routes. So I think that is an advantage for the whole offense, that you don't need to build that in because it's kind of built into the route already. We are what we call a point concept protection team. That's a whole, another conversation. And then our running back in our 6-man protection, or our protector, it could be a tight end. He is truly a protector and then firm up inside. This 6-man protection is not a check release. I know a lot of people do that. They might, check the wide out after protection, check them wide, or check them over the ball. In our system, our running back stays in the protection. And, how important does he become? Sometimes he might take a hit off the quarterback. And that would be the difference with our 5-man protection. The no need for hot or sights. Well, the ball's still going to come out, but the quarterback, when it's 5-man protection, he must understand who is the free rusher. It's not that big a investment for us, because it is the same type of protection we would use in our drop back timing. And then lastly, when we're in 5-man protection, you could be this thing, and you'll see when we start getting into the X's and O's of it, you can use a lot of revealing formations, obviously. So when you talk about quick game empty, it would go into that category. So when I say revealing formations, and you'll see when I get to our cut-ups later on in the conversation, really your creativity is the only thing that limits you in this package, okay? All right, so here's the pattern breakdown. Now, within our quick game, we're going to talk about 5 different concepts. Today, we're going to really spend time on 4 of the 5. The one is, and it is the least used that we have. So when I talk about these 5 different concepts, how you mix and match each of the concepts is really how you get the variety that we talked about earlier. So we'll go into each one, and then, as I said earlier, you're really only limited by your creativity and the protection somewhat. Obviously, if you're only releasing 4 and protecting with 6, you're going to be a little less, be able to be a little less creative. But when you think about it, when I have 5 different concepts, 4 of which we use a lot, and then mix and match those with however many formations from week to week you might use, it becomes a pretty big package. The reason we do it in concepts, and it's like we do our whole passing game pretty much, with very few exceptions, is this. Once we teach this concept to the quarterback, that's what he knows it as. So when we do mix and match these concepts, the quarterback already knows it. So, you're in week 3 and you want to, change a formation or put a little something on what would be a stick concept. He already knows what a stick concept is, and you really don't have to reteach him anything. He's already introduced. So what I'm going to do is go through the 5 different concepts that we do use, and then we'll get into our common ways in which we mix and match them, and then we'll get into the video. So the first concept, and the concept we probably use, it's probably our most popular. These 2 are going to be our most popular that we talk about today, okay? It's a stick concept. I think people are familiar with it. It goes back a long time. And again, guys, I am a believer in something that's sustained over a long period of time. It's probably doing pretty good. So a stick concept can be either 2 or 3 receivers. When we talk to the quarterback, any stick concept in our offense, his progression is going to be whatever the outside route is, and that can vary, and then come back to the inside route, which would be the stick route, okay? This can be used with a tight end or detached receiver. So just those 3 bullets, when we talk about just stick, you've really opened up how many different ways can you draw stick up, okay? We'll get into the drawings here in a little bit. The next, and it is probably the next most frequent quick game concept we use would be a double slant concept. Again, this would be used with 2 receivers. It can have 3, although when you do it with 3 receivers, you're really using that inside receiver as really eye candy more than anything else. I have seen the ball thrown to him, but it's really not by your teaching mechanics. Again, we go back to that decisiveness of the quarterback, and where stick, our progression is going to work from the outside route to the inside route or the stick route. Our progression on our slant concepts or double slant concept, the progression is going to be that inside slant, and we'll talk about how we coach that route, and then we'll go to our outside slant. This is primarily used with detached receivers. We will call it at times with a tight end and a flanker, but really, if we're doing that, we're really saying we're trying to isolate the outside slant. Again, that's just the way we would use it from that mix and match idea. The next concept we talk about is a spacing concept. This could include 2 or 3 receivers, and really you can get involved with 4 receivers. At times we do. The progression of spacing is a little different than the first 2. The progression of spacing, based on how we're going to marry it with the other routes, it can be an isolation route that then works itself across to the spacing, or it can be an inside out progression where we would work the inside route. Some people call it like an over the ball route, an OTB. Some people might call it a sit route, and then work ourselves out. Okay. So depending on how we mix and match spacing will dictate the progression to the quarterback. But again, we go back to that decisiveness. All these throws are progression throws. And I think They time up, back when we were under center a lot. This was, a big part of the old West Coast offense. I know a lot of people are still running that. Quite honestly, I can't identify it most of the time now that we've gone to gun and the footwork's a little different. And then with the spacing concept, it can be used with a traditional, tight end or tight end sets, or if you are in the bunch and the compressed formations, obviously spacing can be a big part of that. The next concept we would refer to as a drag concept. This one we're just from time standpoint and information. This one we're not going to include in today's conversation and today's video. But basically, the drag concept would be an arrow route or a flat route, if you will, with a slant route in behind it. It can be used by two receivers. Generally, it most commonly would be used with a tight end and a detached receiver. Doesn't necessarily have to be. The progression here would be flat slant. Again, I'm not going to spend much time on this one. And as I said earlier, it can be used with tight ends and a detached receiver. And then the last concept, as simple as it sounds, would be an isolation concept. So when I say isolation and we put those together with the other concepts that we've talked about, again, guys, the amount of drawings you can do, it's really it's limitless. It really is. So what are the isolation concepts? Obviously a hitch, a speed out. And the reason I some people call them a rollover or short out, whatever you want to call it. These two routes would be convertible routes versus a press coverage look. Okay. The third one, slant, would be a route we would stay into or stay in against press coverage. So it gives you the ability to lock in some routes like the slant, or the ability to take these easy throws against some softer coverage that may convert to a go, because this converted go is different than, say, a drop back timing 9 route. I think that would be used. So basically we're saying this is obviously a one receiver idea. It's an isolation. It can be used as an access, what we call an access throw, or it can be part of the progression. And it's generally going to be used with detached receivers. Okay. So those are the 5 concepts, guys, that we use in our offense. It gives you a way we teach it. And then the next slide, guys, I'm basically going to, and again, I drew up, a handful of slides here to give you some of the most common combinations that we use. Okay. So we're going to start just like in the text that I had. We're going to start with this stick combination. This is one that we use quite frequently. We like it. I'll give you the reasons we like it. And as I go through each one of these, I'll talk to you about the way we would talk to the quarterback, okay? So on the isolation side, I just diagrammed this as a hitch. As I said earlier, this could also be a speed out or a short out. It could be a slant. I think it marries okay with this. We would convert a fade if we got press coverage, okay? So on the stick side, in this diagram, what we're saying is the number, this would be a three-man stick concept. The number 1 receiver, he would have a locked hitch. The number 2 receiver would have that slot fade that, we're seeing a lot of people run now. This is something that we've been doing for quite a while. And then let's just talk about the stick route with a little bit more detail. So this can be a tight end as is illustrated. This can also be a detached receiver. I would say this, if you're working this concept with a detached receiver, do not get more than 3 to 4 yards from that tackle. The way the quarterback, the repetition of the quarterback, and then I think the timing of the stick route, that's the most that you want to get detached from the offensive tackle. So as we talk about a stick route, we want our stick route to be as vertical as possible. We don't want to really do anything in a diagonal manner. If we do it in any diagonal manner, we would really say pressure the guy covering you. So if you were covered from the inside out, we could put a slight inside stem on it. If you were being covered from the outside in and you knew that, we would maybe put a little outside stem on it, but we really teach it as a vertical release. And then simply it's a short option route. So all we'll say to the stick route is this: if you're matched from the inside, you're going to break away. And a big coaching point, you'll see it on the video, is you want to break away and come out of the cut. We say come out negative, come out back toward the line of scrimmage, whatever term. We say come out of the cut negative. The other coaching point that we make on stick routes is when you break out, you want to keep the defender on your back. I've been doing some stuff the last several weeks and watching a lot of different people. You see this route get undercut so often, and I believe that's a fault of the route itself. So when you teach this, make sure you put a big emphasis on when you come out of that stick. Now, does it have to be a severe negative cut? It does not. It's all dictated on where is the coverage. If the coverage is kind of loose, you can come out of this thing, almost, horizontal. But what we're saying is if it does get matched pretty good, keep that defender on your back. If I do get coverage matching me from the outside, I'm just going to hook in, and we like the depth of that route to be 6 yards. This outside hitch, it's a step-counted hitch against soft coverage. It's a 5-step hitch. We're an inside foot team up. We'll talk about splits here a little bit. If the ball is on the college hash mark, we would tell that number one receiver to be 2 yards from the top of these numbers. We would tell the boundary side receiver to be 2 yards from the bottom of these numbers. The quarterback read on this, and once I do this first slide, I think it'll go a little quicker as we go through all the different combinations. So from a pre-snap idea, now, when I say pre-snap, I do think this is an important term. I tell that quarterback pre-snap means right up till the time that ball is snapped. We do a lot with our hands. We do a lot with our cadence. We are a pseudo no huddle team, but I still think the importance of cadence, it cannot be, undersold. So basically the quarterback, if he gets a pre-snap read that says he has an access throw to this week one receiver, he should take it all day. What we would say is the timing of this hitch would be in everything we do, we have what we call a punch step. Some people call it just a settle step or a timing step. So it would be that punch, plant, ball, okay? We want our right foot, if we're a righty, to make sure the shoelaces on our right foot are in line with my throw, and we want the left foot to be off center, right? So a lot of people say just step left of target with the left foot. So it's short footwork. That right foot should land right underneath my hip, and the ball's out as soon as that right foot hits. So we would call that a quick one drop. A lot of people ask, Coach, can he take this conversion fade? Well, we'll talk about if we get press coverage on the X in our offense, what the options are. So let's just kind of hold on that right now. If I do not have access to the X, so that could be a lot of different things. It could be a cloud type of coverage, a half kind of coverage. It could be a soft corner that has either a wide down safety or an overhang linebacker that has a lot of width that they feel like he could get underneath this hitch. So if I don't have access on the weak side, what we would say is then I would work my combination stick to the strong side. And as we said in the slides earlier, any stick concept in our offense is going to be an outside in progression. So in this case, he would progress the outside hitch first, and that's a locked hitch. Now the footwork, if I'm throwing a hitch, and this is an access hitch as well as a hitch that acts, in this case, part of a concept, I still want to do it on that quick one drop. There's no timing difference. But I will say this, when you throw a hitch or a quick one drop to the right, I do think it's, for a righty quarterback, I do think it's different than throwing it to the left. And it's something that we rep all summer, all winter, and then obviously in our season. So the biggest coaching point I give to the quarterback is when you are throwing quick one, okay, there's no hold on this, to your right, what we tell them with that punch step is we want to toe in. We want to, kind of pivot on that punch step. And that's true in all our offense. So anytime, and it's kind of obvious. I believe this from an accuracy standpoint, when you evaluate your quarterbacks, guys, is looking at their back foot, that pivot foot, and what it will be. And at the end of the day, you want the shoelaces on the back foot to be in line with your target. And then you want the left foot or the lead foot to be out of the way. I think years and years watching video and watching quarterbacks, I can't emphasize that enough. If this hitch is taken away, then he would come back progression-wise, set your feet, and come back to the stick route. So just go through some general coverages. Let's say we got a cloud coverage week, okay? And then let's say we got, whatever coverage, quarter, half coverage, where we have a soft corner to the field, we have a cloud corner to the boundary. By rule, we should say, go ahead and throw this hitch. Now, the field hitch, I do think is something that the quarterback has to feel comfortable with. I've been fortunate in that the last several quarterbacks I've had, this is not a hard throw. I think they like it. I think it's pretty easy. Here's what I will say, though. It's on a quick one. Do not hesitate to throw this ball. If you go quick one, reshuffle your feet, and do a bunch of other things, this is not going to be good. So if we get a cover 2 look, let's just take a cloud corner on both sides, 2 high safeties. Obviously, that would say no access. I would still tell the quarterback, progress from your hitch and come back to the stick, which is usually going to be matched in cover 2 by the Mike linebacker. So you would go outside in, there's your progression. What gives me access? Well, I could get some kind of rotated strong coverage. So if they wanted to rock to a cover 3 look, a middle close look, and I have this access throw to the weak side, I would go ahead and take it. Quarters with an off look. A lot of people play that shell coverage where that free safety might, read across to the tight end, okay? And that corner might play that soft inside position. We could take that access throw. So those are the combinations that would give me the hitch to the field, the hitch to the boundary, or the short side. We talked about what would make us come back to the stick route. So now you say, well, Coach, how does this slot fade come into play? Well, in this concept, I think the slot fade is really there. Let's say you have man coverage. So it's 3 over 3 here. And we know we have man on the X. We know we have man on the slot. The reason I was hesitant earlier to say, is that access converted go? Is that an access throw for the quarterback? Well, it depends on matchup. It depends on personnel. One of the reasons I do like this concept is, generally speaking, most defenses, the best 2 coverage guys are going to be the 2 corners. Well, if we can get this guy matched up in a man situation on a safety or a nickel for that part, and they're going to play some kind of middle close coverage or maybe even a 0 coverage, this slot fade becomes a very that's an attractive look. So if everything was equal and you knew you had man coverage, well, if they press the number 1 receiver, obviously that's dead. And if they're playing like one rat, if you will, or one robber, where they're kind of getting a bracket on this number 3 receiver, that's not going to be great. Well, I still have 2 different options to go to. So that's why we like that stick concept. We've used it a lot, and it has been very successful for us. I would say this, if anything, these last couple years, probably should have run this more in season for whatever reason. So, all right, so now we go to a different stick concept. This is a stick concept to the 3 receiver side, except now we're going to run what we call a protection go. In other words, this number 1 receiver, he can be a live route, but his job is basically to protect this short, and this is kind of old school stick, this short rollover, short out, if you will. It's going to be a speed cut for the most part. His job is really to protect this route. So if he did get a cover 2 corner, we would force an outside release or a mandatory outside release. If he had a press corner, he wants to really run that guy to the goal line. to give this route the first progression, okay? So nothing really changed on the access side. We could run any of our access routes. We could run the hitch that's illustrated. We could run the short out. We could run slant if we want. We would convert the out and the hitch, and then we would come back to the stick route. So on the strong side, if you were playing a team that, you know, whatever reason felt like they were a wide match, you know, two-shell team on the number one receiver, and you had kind of an apex Sam, this, you know, would be something you might want in the game plan, all right? Go back to the original idea. Anytime we throw stick, we're going to work the outside route, which in this case ends up being that rollover, and come back to the stick. So you could see from that decisiveness and accuracy, we're teaching the quarterback the same over and over again. So now we got into a little bigger personnel. Maybe it's a 2 tight end set. It could be a 2 running back set. You know, if you're a traditional fullback, you know, tailback with the tight end, this would be another way to run stick. So we would have that same protection route on the outside. If you're in the core or attached, you know, you'd want to run this from strong back. I would not do this ever from an I formation. So you want to be kind of in a strong or you know, wing type of ideal. If you're in a 2 tight end set, now his route becomes a flat. Again, the same rules holds true for the quarterback. If I have the access, I should take the access throw weak. If not, I would come back strong. And now the combination would be the flat back to the stick. Okay. All right. The next illustration now goes into 5-man protection. So now we're releasing 5 routes, and now we're going to mix and match something else with stick. So the first 3 slides, we mixed and matched different stick combinations with an isolation. Now we're going to mix and match a stick combination to what would be the boundary side here with that double slant combination to the field. So now once you've gotten into releasing 5 players, this could be empty. Again, guys, the creativity ends up being, you know, it ends up being huge, okay? All right, here's the general rule of how we would coach the quarterback here, but I am going to add something to it as I talk. Generally speaking, we would say this: if it's a too high shell, okay, we're really going to base it on which way does the Mike linebacker open or what does he defend, okay? In some match too high shell, whether it's quarters coverage or half coverage, the Mike linebacker may match the number 3 receiver weak and open into the boundary. This gives us a tremendous look to the field, this double slant idea. If the quarterback matches to the field side, we should have a pretty good idea of what the stick combination looks. So again, on the stick side, we're going to go outside in, the flat to the stick. On the double slant side, we would go inside out. I know I'm taking a lot of time, and I do want to get to the video, so I'm going to get through these slides a little quicker because I kind of given you a lot of information of how we would read these things. This would just be the opposite, would stick to the field and the double slant combination to the boundary, which does make it different to the defense. This would be stick on both sides. So you have that hitch stick on the weak side and then the flat stick on the strong side. This is the first component of spacing that we have introduced. So I might put an isolation route here with a spacing idea here, and we'll get to that video hopefully. This is a 5-out spacing with a stick idea to the field side and a spacing combination to the weak side. This would be the double slant combination with an isolation. So those are the different combinations. I do want to get to the video here, and I'm going to share this. Okay, so now we're on the video part, and I think we're getting. I got a 5-minute warning not long ago. So here's the video. So I'm going to pause it here and just kind of diagram a little bit. This would be that first combination we talked about. So to the boundary side, we would have a hitch or a conversion. Here would be the stick. Here would be the 2 slants. All right, so that would be the 2 slants to the field. And here's what the quarterback would say to himself. If I have space to the field, that I feel good about the slants, I'm going to go ahead and take the slant. Here he ends up taking that outside slant. I'll rerun it here real quick, or hopefully this is, of course, we're going to load back up. So he's going to read the slant as inside out. The inside slant's job is to basically run through the inside shoulder of his coverage. So the wider the coverage, the more vertical I'll be. That's a good illustration of that punch plant ball throw from the quarterback. Easy pitch and catch, about an 11-yard gain. Okay. All right. This is going to be the same with the two slants to the wide side. This is actually a second tight end. And then we're going to have the stick combination into the boundary. So on the boundary throw, and again, I think a lot of this is the quarterback I had. This is Ball State tape, and that's what most of this tape is going to be. He loved throwing slants, but if you just invited him to take a simple hitch into the boundary, there you could see him kind of using his hands. He's setting some protections up there as well, kind of seeing what the intent of the defense is. One of the things about playing in the no huddle, I think, getting to the line of scrimmage early, letting the quarterback dissect, simple hitch, 13-yard gain, kind of in the high red zone. So, again, his progression on that stick side would be the outside hitch and come back to that inside stick. Keith is resetting some protection there. You'll see his footwork, that punch plant. It's a quick one drop. The ball should be out, okay? All right, here's the next illustration. I'll pause it a little bit before. So it's the same thing. We have the hitch to the conversion on the weak side with the stick inside. Then we have our inside slant and outside slant. So if I'm the quarterback and I looked at this pre-snap, let me just erase this real quick. And I looked at this pre-snap. Well, I have a press player on the X, a safety that's pretty far over, and then these two Mike and Will linebacker, they're kind of bowed over quite a bit. So the hitch isn't going to be great. The leverage of this stick's not going to be great. But then here's what this opponent's doing. They're going to play the nickel or the Sam with an outside leverage look to the double slant side, almost pre-snap. And again, I think a big part of this was that decisiveness and accuracy. I would say really the last three quarterbacks I've had, I would say they probably knew where they were going with the football before it was snapped. In the quick game concepts, guys, I would guess probably at least 75% of the time. And, it's kind of an old Peyton Manningism, right? If I know where I'm going with the football before the ball is snapped, my accuracy is going to be tremendous. So here's one, and you say, well, Coach, how do you, this is high red zone. So we have the two slants to the field. This is one where if you have a favorable matchup at that, week one position, this was a size matchup. This weak side number one receiver is a 6'3" plus guy, big kid going against a smaller corner. That's talent and that's personnel. But if you do have that matchup, that's something that, it gives you the ability to do it. So I'm going to keep going as quickly as I can to get to as many of these shots. So here's one we talked about when you get into the 5-man protection using these unique formations. So this is actually no running backs on the field, 2 tight ends and 3 wide receivers. One of these tight ends, and it's the inline guy right now, he could play everywhere for us. And I think as this game has changed, using these different formations, and if you have those hybrid guys, it's really, pretty good. So this is a spacing concept to the left or the boundary and a stick concept to the field. You could see, this is a hash mark oriented team. You're giving them a unique empty set, and you've kind of just out leveraged them to the field with a simple stick combination. Again, you go back to your rules. Well, if I'm Keith, I'm going to go outside in like all my sticks, okay? And because of the nature of the defense, and we usually would use at least one of those in every game plan. Something that's going to be unique that they haven't seen on film. Sometimes you get a timeout out of it. So that would be that combination. Okay. All right, this is the stick, the 3x1 stick with the slot fade, the one that we first diagrammed, and then the isolation on the weak side. So that's what we're looking at here. Here's a good illustration as it goes to a cover 2 look where it's going to cloud. You know, they're trying to give a disguise. So this corner, you know, kind of clouds. There's your slot fade. You'll watch the quarterback here. He's still going to work that outside in progression. So it's punch, plant to the hitch, come back to the stick as the second progression. Again, pretty easy take. This is one where he's taken the field hitch outside. So we've watched, I don't know how many clips of stick now, about 7 or so. And the ball has gotten sprayed around, right? It's gone into the boundary. It's gone to the field. It's gone to the stick. It's gone to the outside hitch as part of this 3-man. This is going to be an illustration. I'll freeze it here at the beginning. So this was a third down call, a third and, you know, medium, if you will, 2 or 3. North Texas is going to play it's pretty simple to see. It's a man coverage look. They're going to take the weak safety and kind of cheat him toward the X. Well, now this gives you that one-on-one big box fade or the slot fade, you know, to a good receiver on a nickel, and that's a pretty good win. And I would say, you know, on average, we're probably getting within our stick concept 1 or 2 of those per season. And once you get those on film, they're pretty good. So, you know, that's kind of that whole stick with the inside slot fade. So this is going to be, I think, the 5 out, where the stick now side is going to be the running back and the stick route, and then the double slant side down to the bottom here. Okay, so again, it's kind of a man coverage look. You know, I think slants are really good. I think it's a good setup. Does a great job of selling the 9 route. What we call a big arm or a swipe by, some people might call it. But, you know, this receiver, that's good technique. You know, sell the 9, get the press player's hips turned, and then get back to your slant. So pretty good illustration of a really good stick route. Again, Keith kind of using, you know, different mannerisms in the pocket to change the cadence. I think I have a few of those on tape. Again, this will be that stick concept with the running back and tight end to the wide side and the slant weak. He works the stick side and goes outside in and progresses back to the quarterback. I'm going to go through a couple more of these just so you can get as many pictures as you can. Here is, I believe this is going to be the double slant idea to the top with an isolation to the bottom. Okay, you could see that the defense was going to a middle close coverage. And again, when you get a good matchup, that's a kid by the name of Willie Snead, great receiver, you know, still playing. Like I said, Keith Wenning was another kid, a drafted kid. Neither kid really a highly recruited kid, but really, really good players, and I owe so much to those guys. Okay, you could see the slant or the double slant combination. Again, really good technique. Wide receiver coach doing a great job here. Slants are going to be thrown on a little different timing than a hitch route would be. It's kind of a punch plant, and we might hold on a slant depending on how the receiver is going to come out of the cut. So, but it's still that quick game timing. Break a tackle, and you're getting a lot more yardage. So that's that double slant combination with the isolation into the boundary. This is going to be this is a little different. This is going to be a spacing type of concept on the weak side with a stick concept with the slot fade to the strong side. So we felt like, you know, a pretty good man combination, but also good against zone. That at the end of the day, that's really what you're trying to find. You know, a little bit back and forth motion with the running back, maybe to create a little bit of leverage, and then you get kind of a rub route on this spacing idea. So this ends up being that short curl. The progression there would have been flat back to the short curl. This is another idea of spacing. You could put whatever isolation route on it. This was a short speed cut with the spacing to the short side here. So if you have one of those special receivers, whether it's a big guy or in this case, a smaller guy, and you want to get a field isolation, this is a pretty good deal. So sorry about that. This would be a concept where he would go from the isolation route and work himself back across to the spacing if they played a double coverage on the isolation route. This is just kind of looking at the pictures ahead of time. Okay. I think this is going to be a double move. All right. So anything in your quick game arsenal. So whether you have stick, well, you should have a stick nod idea. If you have hitch, you should have a hitch and go idea. And if you have slant, you should have a sluggo idea. So it's really, when you use it that much, I think these double moves, great sell by the receiver. It's 3 steps in. Quarterback gets a little pressure. We like to make it look like our quick game from a fundamental standpoint, a little bit of a pump. Now, ideally, he would be able to reset his feet on that. He got caught up a little bit with the protection, but did a good job ultimately of getting it out. And then we talked earlier, now you get into your empty sets. Now just mix and match whatever you want to mix and match. So I think this is going to have the slant up top with the stick idea, the 3-man stick idea to the bottom. And again, the multiplicity in which you want to use it ends up being huge. So I think this is going to be the last clip. This is going to be a stick to the field with that protection route. And I think it's double stick here. This ended up being a big play. It was kind of like 4-minute offense toward the end of the game. We needed to convert one more first down. We actually did more than that, but we converted this. They got into a 0 look. They didn't peel this blitzer on the strong side. So technically the quarterback's throwing hot, but he really doesn't have to. The timing of it ends up doing it. We ended up, scoring another with a long run after that to kind of cap this game. So it's a great win for us that day. So I think that's the last of the video. I'm not sure if there were any questions out there, but if there's anything you can get in touch with me, reach out. I'm trying to look at chat here, but I don't think I have anything. But with that being said, I appreciate everybody's attention and attendance today. Doing this virtual stuff, it's opened up a lot of information for a lot of people. So it was a pleasure to be with you today. I hope you got something out of it. Again, I think the quick game concepts are something that a lot of people can use in a lot of different venues. So again, and I appreciate everybody's attendance today.